Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I don't know where Shivani digs up all these amazing, amazing people, and I feel very this big compared to a lot of the other people who are speaking today. I think that there's always such amazing, amazing people at these events, and I feel very humble and honored to be here. And I think that I feel like I'm absolutely nothing in comparison to some of the people who are speaking here today. So thank you for inviting me, Shivani. So I just wanted to speak about adversity. I think that we spend our entire lives running from adversity and thinking that it's something that we need to avoid. But I think all of the stories that we'll hear today just show how much the amount of adversity that people face really ends up making you who you are. And sometimes in the end, adversity is probably the best thing that could possibly happen to us. So as they mentioned, my adversity in many ways started. I grew up in the US, which everyone thinks is a big dream and an amazing life. But I grew up in a home that was full of domestic violence, a lot of abuse. My mom had schizophrenia. And at a very early age, I started trying to run from adversity. And running, unfortunately, took me to the US military, where I continued to need to run. And in the US military, as an Indian woman, of course, being a woman of color in the US military was just a bad situation or experience in general. But then, of course, as I mentioned, I'm lesbian. And at the time, the military had a policy called Don't Ask, Don't Tell, in which basically you're allowed to be lesbian or gay, but you're not allowed to talk about it. And so the time came that somebody found out, and it was time for me to get kicked out. And I basically said, like, if I'm here, I'm going to be fighting for this policy. So for a good 5-6 months, we spent, me and a lot of friends, we spent all of our time handcuffing ourselves to the White House fence, doing huge protests and sit-ins in senators' offices. And the policy changed about 3 months after I got kicked out. So I was kicked out in July of 2010, and then I moved here to India. And it's, like I said, very, very humble to be here. I think that the kids that I work with right now have taught me so much more about facing adversity and about growing as a person than I could possibly ever imagine. So right now, I work with Kranti, which is an NGO that empowers girls from Mumbai's red light areas to become agents of social change. They're all at this table back here, if you want to wave. So we work with girls who are trafficked, girls who are daughters of sex workers, and girls who are born and raised in the red light area. And like I said, these girls have faced so much adversity. All of our girls have faced different types of abuse, violence, discrimination, things like that. And yet they're the ones who really, show me every day that it's adversity that brings out the most amazing part of you. Some of our girls have been, trafficked or, sold into sex work at really young ages, at the age of 9, 10. And some of our girls have, been abused by family members or, people who are very close to them, face sexual abuse for 5, 6, 7, 10 years sometimes. And I think that these girls, through therapy and a lot of the programs that we do at Kranti, they emerge these really amazing, amazing, strong leaders. I'm sure a lot of you probably heard about one of our girls named Kranti. She was the first girl from a red light area ever to study abroad. She's been studying in New York for a couple years. And in general, we also, last Expresso Talks, Sheetal Jain spoke. Sheetal, who's a drummer, she's also the daughter of a sex worker and has been only studied in 4th and 7th standard, but as a therapist, basically, using music therapy to work with kids also from red light areas. So I just have to say that I think all of these girls have really shown me that adversity is probably the most amazing thing that can happen to us in our lives. Personally, I know that the things that I've faced and some of the people that I've met, and I'm sure all the stories that we're going to hear today are people who are made by adversity, right? We think that adversity is something that we really should avoid and that, we're never, we need to be running away from. But I think that all of these stories that we'll hear today really show, and I'm sorry, that was a really difficult thing to follow. Thank you for sharing your story. That was absolutely amazing. I'm humbled to speak after you. But I think that adversity is probably sometimes the best thing that can happen to us. So as one of Kranti's girls, Saira Sheikh was supposed to speak here. Last night we had to take her to the hospital at 12 at around midnight. So her younger sister Sumaya Sheikh is going to speak instead. Sumaya is 14 and she, I woke her up this morning and I said, hey, guess what? You're coming to give a speech. So here's some more adversity for Sumaya Sheikh to face. Please welcome her and